Hey everybody, welcome to the second episode of the Architecture, Business, and Design podcast / YouTube channel. I am here with Neil Myers. He is a senior architect at JFA architecture firm. Thank you for coming, Neil.
Thank you for having me.
So, Neil, tell us a little bit about your career as an architect, how it started, how it's developed.
So I started getting interested in architecture probably when I was in high school, taking several art classes, and then I tried to figure out what I wanted to do with it. And so I went to college, got an associate's degree in liberal arts, took a wide range of classes, and I kept navigating back to drawing and creating. So then I took a leap and went to architecture school and never looked back. That was in 2001, actually, year 2001. I started school and I started working the following year as an intern.
Okay, so out of all the projects you've worked on, and you've worked on a broad range of projects, what's your favorite? Do you like commercial better or residential, hospitality?
Yeah, it's a complicated answer I'm going to give you now. I like mixed-use buildings, which is kind of a combination of all of those possibilities, where maybe the ground floor, first few floors could be commercial and then a residential tower on top.
Okay.
Something like that. I find that's the most interesting because you get the best of all different project types there, and it's more challenging too because you have to figure out how to make those three things work together in harmony, not disrupt each other.
So this is fascinating, I think, for most people because you've managed entire buildings, the process from ground up, right?
Yeah, from inception to occupancy, essentially.
So have you ever been overwhelmed? Just like you get all the drawing plans, or you make them and you think, oh my God, this is going to be a long process.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of unknowns. There's unknown unknowns, unpredictables. Like, how do you handle that, or do you just take it day by day?
You take a deep breath, and the first project, I was very overwhelmed because I didn't realize that these things take years, literally, to build. Yeah. Even if it's a large renovation, you still have to go in there and do the demolition before you do the construction. So there's a lot of time and multiple steps. So how I approach it is literally bite by bite almost. You just go at it and realize that you can't get it done in a day. Like, what do they say? Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Built in
so that is literally the truth. Like you have to keep going back to it, getting frustrated, starting over, making mistakes, fixing them, learning from them, and the best thing is the deadline. Your client will have a time when they want to move into the building, and everything is focused on that date. So you try to make it happen, like almost like an orchestra conductor. Right?
Do you find that most of the time you were able to meet the deadlines, or is it most of the time like we're going to need another month, we're going to need?
From the design standpoint and architectural, what's in our control as architects, we can achieve those deadlines. Can the contractor build it as fast as the owner wants? That's not always the case.
Yeah.
But there's always a way to make it happen if it's realistic. People can work overtime, they can work weekends, they can reduce the size of the building if it has to get done at a certain time.
So, contractors, I've talked to architects, designers. It's one of their biggest headaches, at least until they find a team that they're comfortable working with, that they can trust. How have you formed your team of you need a glass guy, you need a wood guy. So how did you form your team?
It's not easy because the teams are different on every job, I'd say.
Okay.
If I have my way, I will suggest a few contractors that the owner will hire them early in the process so that they can advise everything throughout the design process. Like for designing something complicated, the contractor will be at the table and say, yes, I can build this for your budget. But that doesn't happen 99% of the time.
or this design is impossible to make.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, that happens a lot too.
Yeah.
And sometimes the owner will come to you with the contractor already selected, and they'll say, this is my contractor, let's build it together. And then you'll come into a disagreement of how you're going to build it or what it is that you're going to build, because they'll say, oh, on the last job I did for that guy, we did this.
Mhm.
You're like, well, this is different. Be like, yeah, but it worked fine. Be like, yeah, but this is different. And that's constantly the struggle with them, is getting them to understand what it is that we want. You know,
Yeah.
communication of the design intent.
Mhm.
Because they'll say, well, why do you want it like that? You don't want it like that. You want it even. You're like, no, actually, I want it crooked. I designed it crooked on purpose.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it. Don't want to explain it. It's on the drawing. That's where it gets into a challenge where you know, everybody's trying to do everybody else's job sometimes.
Yeah. It's not a science, right? It's more of a art, right? You got to kind of feel, every project is different. You got to kind of feel it out.
It's probably a balance between the two, though. There's a high degree of art to it that makes it architecture.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still science involved. Like gravity's gravity. Like I can only overhang a cantilever so far before it becomes cost prohibitive. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
But knowing how to manipulate the science and create art is the beauty of architecture, I think. Anybody can build a building, right? Architecture is a building that it pulls emotion out of you when you see it. It makes you, it causes a reaction, whether you love it or hate it. You know, like look at a Frank Gehry building. Some people think it's the coolest thing ever. Other people are like, what is that monstrosity?
Yeah.
You know? And some people are stuck in the middle and don't care.
Yeah. Have you noticed that the industry has changed from when you first started to now?
I'd say BIM is huge. When I started architecture school, AutoCAD was like the big deal, right? AutoCAD 2000 came out. Like, it was the first time they put a year on it. Before that, it was just release numbers. And so all the firms are transitioning from the old drafting table to the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Now they thought that they were done with the computer as one step, and now it's going into BIM, you know, building information modeling, where you are building the project virtually, and then it is turned into construction documents and given to the contractor to be built.
Wow.
So we're still in like a weird gray area because we're modeling it really high tech on a computer screen. Then you still have to hit print. The contractor goes out there with a roll of paper. That's where the industry is starting to shift a little, because the contractors are starting to go past us in technology. They're starting to really embrace them and going, wait. The model tells me how many cubic yards of concrete I need. I want that model. And then there's ways for them to visualize things that they couldn't see before, because they can rotate it around in their construction trailer and whatnot.
Wow. I saw a video Elon Musk has on his YouTube channel where they designed one of the engines for, I believe it's one of the engines for his rocket, and he had a special, it was a hologram, and he had a special apparatus on his hand, and he was turning it like Iron Man. And I thought, that's going to be the future of design.
It is something like that. Yeah, like now, I mean, when I started, we had these big boxy monitors, and you had one little monitor on your screen. Now on my desk, I have two huge curved monitors, like wrapped around technology. And also email. I mean, the smartphone wasn't around when I started my career either.
Oh, wow.
If you think about the amount of emails I get a day now compared to when I started. I mean, obviously I started as a junior architect, now I'm a senior architect, so responsibility is totally different. But a few hundred emails a day is kind of crazy, no matter what you do.
Yes, noted.
Well, and half of them you just copied on. You're not directly addressed to, you're just CC'd.
Yeah.
And I'm sure architects aren't the only people who have that problem. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably worse in some other industries that are, more communicative.
Yeah. So, yeah, I find I agree with you. I have to like spend like 2 hours in the morning on emails. On lunch, I have to clear my email box again, and then by 5, I have to re-clear my email inbox, because all day long it's just, can you quote me this? Can you quote me that?
Yeah, it's nonstop.
So, of all the roles that you've had in your career, which one did you enjoy the most? Do you enjoy the one with the most responsibility, which I'm assuming is what you have now, or did you enjoy some halfway point?
I enjoy where I am now because I get to control the process a little more, and I understand the process.
Yeah.
Like knowing why, as opposed to just doing it, I think helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I miss having very little responsibility. I mean, that is it's nice. It's nice to have little to worry about. But at the same time, when you have little to worry about, there's little that you actually understand.
Yeah.
You know?
Just going to bed and it's not my responsibilities.
Yeah.
Now it is your responsibility, so now it's
Yeah, like the phrase they say, it keeps you up at night. Like it's real with architecture, because you'll be working on a project and you'll think, oh, did I do something wrong? And you'll wake up and think about it. So the more experience you have and comfort you can give yourself in the design process, the more you know. If you're confident as a designer, you can convey it to the contractor and get it built the way you want it.
So, from what I have read, there was architecture and there was interior designers. And now well, I don't know if it's recently, maybe in the last 2 decades, they've developed the architectural interiors. So it's kind of architects that only work on interiors, and they kind of became not interior designers, but they only design.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think that is partially a result of spaces getting really built up, and then instead of knocking a building down and rebuilding a new one, we're renovating a lot now, especially in New York, because most of these buildings that we have were built 50 years ago or so, or 100 years ago, and instead of knocking them down, we go in and we take everything out and we put a new life inside of it. Like, I'd say probably 30% of the jobs I've done in my career like that.
Yeah. So, do you, when someone wants to put up a building, do you sit down together with the engineer, or do you come in after the engineer?
We're first, usually.
Okay.
Architecture will come up with the general shape of the building based on zoning and the owner's requirements, what they want, what they're allowed to have, and what they want. We have to find the happy medium with that, maximize the investment possibility, and then the engineers will help us figure out how to make the building stand up, and heating and cooling and lighting and all that. We work hand in hand, though. It's not like we just hand off a building to them and tell them to make it work. We have to understand what they do. Like, we have to understand how far lights need to be away from each other, and sprinklers will be there and all that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we start to create the shell, and we work on filling it in together.
Okay. God, I can't imagine so many codes and that you have to follow and all this stuff. So which project that you've worked on have you enjoyed the most, or do you find the coolest, for lack of a better word?
Hospitality projects, I think, because there's a sense of fun that it's almost ingrained in it, because you're trying to make the people who are using the space in a hospitality environment, they're away from home, and you're trying to make them feel like they're at home, which is different for every single person. Yeah. So you're trying to make somebody comfortable in so many different ways, you know what I mean? Because you're trying to make you comfortable, me comfortable, she comfortable, everybody. And that's a delicate balance. And there's usually a place to sleep, and a place to eat, and a place to drink. So those kind of like 3 balances of activity also have something special for me.
What about gyms? Have you ever had to work on a gym in a hotel? Or?
Yeah, in a hotel they usually have a gym element, a business center, restaurant. The back of house stuff's too there, the housekeeping center, so you get to deal with utilitarian items. What's
the favorite part of your job? Like on Neil Meyer's day, what's your favorite part of being an architect?
I like doing numbers, the first pass of the project, coming up with what it can be, and then creating like a quick preliminary version of the building. That's my favorite thing to do, and then handing it off to another team member and seeing where they take it, and then we do you hand it back and forth, and you turn it into a new building, a new creation, I guess.
I'm guessing, since you're the head of the project, most of your day must be spent in meetings, right? They come to you, presenting to you what they came up with.
Yeah, I'd say 60% of my time is communicating what needs to get done next, or what we did last, and how we need to fix it. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of strategizing about who's going to work on what next. And then sometimes, you have to just helicopter in and take care of something real quick and then go back out. So I'd say versatility is a very key.
Take a quick ride to Home
thing.
Depot.
Yeah, you grab, go to the site, but don't forget the tape measure.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
So what's your least favorite part?
Emails. Yeah.
Answering.
I don't like email. And it's unfortunate because the thing I don't like about it is it's so, communication now is so, what's the right word for that? It's almost like nonstop, right? People will respond without thinking, and then by the time you'll get to the email chain, there'll be 6 responses that have diverted the conversation in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to spend a lot more energy writing it on the right course. Because, like you were saying before, with all those codes and information, if one person makes one slight misinterpretation along the way, somebody will have to come in and correct it before it gets built. And that's where it gets into a nightmare. And email is really, I think, the weak point.
Yeah. I respect that immensely because, let's say we're building a chandelier. If somebody writes the wrong size of sockets for the light fixtures down the day before, and they spend the whole day rewiring the chandelier with the wrong size sockets, that whole day has just been lost because they got to redo it. Everything gets backed up, and that's just a light fixture. You're doing buildings.
Yeah. So the key to that is making sure you catch that mistake before they start building it.
Yeah.
Because if it's on, I always tell the guys I work with that a mistake on paper is not anywhere near as a mistake on the site.
Yeah, that's true.
So you just fix it. Maybe you're embarrassed if you made a mistake, but you're more embarrassed when you tell the poor contractor that built it per your plans that you were wrong.
Yeah.
And that he has to take down what he built right and rebuild it right another way. You gotta avoid those.
Yeah, I try. What's the biggest obstacle you've ever faced in your career?
I'd say communication in general. Not like one instance, but communicating what the client wants as opposed to what the code allows and what we can actually deliver. And I think it's that. Managing expectations plus communication. Those two things are kind of very well related.
Yeah. So now it's something that I've always wondered. New York City is a beautiful city. But I see some of the buildings in Dubai, and I'm like, New York City is probably the financial capital of the world. Why don't we have buildings like those the buildings in Dubai look like it's the year 2050.
Oh yeah. Well, we're trying, we can have buildings like Dubai. There's no reason why we don't, architecturally, design-wise. The construction industry in New York may be more expensive than in Dubai, and so maybe to cost, like let's say the Burj Dubai, the giant tower over there, maybe it would have cost twice as much to build it in New York. I don't know. The reasons like that may be some of the restrictions on New York City. And also our land is very finite. We started building high-rises in Manhattan almost 100 years ago, and we haven't stopped. Like they just started in Dubai, so I have a feeling they have much more of a footprint to play with.
Yeah.
And I mean, like we squeezed this high-rise in.
Yeah.
Out of tragedy. It was the only reason we had a room for a building that big, and
it's a beautiful building.
yeah, it is a beautiful building.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to do some work in it too.
Oh, really?
Definitely. It was a pleasure. I did an office renovation on one of the upper floors, and what a view is all I can say.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive. But like you see Hudson Yards is like newfound land over there. So it used to be a big train storage area, and now they've freed that up and they're putting a bunch of high rises there. They're not Dubai though. Maybe it's because we don't have the government investment that Dubai has backing it. There may be a lot of government subsidies there, and she doesn't like New York, maybe. No, you can really cut that. But,
Well, the Javits Center is beautiful, right?
Javits Center is okay. I'm not a huge fan of it because I think it's too much glass.
Oh, okay.
I think it's hard to keep it clean. But I mean, once you're inside it, it feels all right. You know?
Yeah.
It's a big, giant, sprawling convention center.
Yeah, Hudson Yards. What's the name of that development firm? Rockwell.
Yeah, the Rockwell Group.
They're one of the biggest. They're one of the biggest developers there, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing beautiful work, but it's not to buy.
Mhm.
Another thing I was thinking is maybe they don't think they can lease it, because I read somewhere that the Freedom Tower is almost 50%.
It is.
Or 75% empty, which is fascinating.
I don't know what the percentage is, but you can see it at nighttime. The floors that still have the construction lights on,
Yeah.
they're not occupied, which is it is fascinating because New York's real estate market is crazy. So,
Yeah.
is it that they want a lot for the floor? Is it that it's inconvenient to get in and out of the building? I'm not sure why.
I did some research. I think a 3,000 square foot office was about 18,000 a month, which, you know, sounds like a lot, but for that, there's
Yeah.
buildings surrounding it that are way more.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, just being there, I think, would be a good position point for your business, right? If you say, hey, come to my office, I'm on 89th floor of the Freedom Tower.
That's what my client that had an office and they were doing. Like they were moving from Midtown down there, and it was to be a flagship kind of showstopper, show off what they have. But I don't know. That's the real estate industry is so up and down and left and right. Like I couldn't tell you why this neighborhood versus that neighborhood. I'm not.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
I mean, I can understand it after it happens, but I couldn't tell you why it happened.
So, there's probably going to be people who want to be architects watching this,
Mhm.
and they're scared to make mistakes,
Mhm.
understandably. So maybe you could tell them what your biggest mistake that you've ever made, so that when they do make the mistake that they're going to make, they don't feel so bad about it.
The biggest thing I could say is you will make mistakes no matter what you do in any career. But with architecture, everything is so building code specific and life safety for people's fire hazards and whatnot in buildings. So the biggest mistakes you could make are ones that are life safety related code problems. And then it would be like, let's say you put too many people in a space for the stair. You designed a building with a 3-foot stair and it needed a 3'8" stair.
Mm.
Read the code is my advice to everybody. Like read it and then read it again. And if you are unsure of something, always pick the more conservative route and then recheck it later. Because imagine you laid out a whole building, just the same story as the chandelier sockets we're talking about.
Yeah.
You laid out the whole tower with a 3-foot stair, but it needed a 3'8" stair. Doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Does it
Got
fit?
it. Got it.
Maybe it fits, but it doesn't fit without impacting something else. And that's really the kind of mistakes you got to be careful for. I think staircases, yeah, those are the things that are challenging for architects to get right because you have to think in 3D. Software, Revit helps a lot, but
Mhm.
you got to get it right still.
How would you advise someone that wants to work in a big firm? How would you tell them to get into their? You hear a lot of people talking. I don't know if it's true in the architecture field, but you hear a lot of people talking that they're coming out of college and they can't find a job.
Mm-hmm.
How would you advise someone how to present themselves to a big firm in order to be considered for the job?
Have an extensive portfolio that shows a wide range of work. Know what you want. Like if you're gonna apply for a job, know if you want to just be a drafter, if you want to be a designer, or if you want to eventually be the boss. And I'd say if you do get hired at a large firm, try to make sure that they know that you're there. Like don't just go to work and go to your cubicle and put your head down and work. Make noise, ask questions, be disruptive to a degree that gets you noticed, but you have to contribute. You can't just run around complaining all day. Like, if if you can make a difference in the firm, and if the leadership can acknowledge that you are one of the people making a difference, you will be likely promoted and given more responsibility.
Do you have any mentors early on in your career? Any bosses that kind of guided you through?
Yeah, it was the third firm I worked for, but it was right after I got out of college. The architect I worked for there, I answered an ad on Craigslist for the job, and it says, if you want to be a licensed architect, start here. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied, and he was telling the truth. Like, he taught me, he would go out of his way to explain the code to me, why I was drawing what I was drawing, and I appreciated that so much that I do that for my junior staff. Like, I don't just write out something and give it to them. I'll make them come sit with me and explain why they need to do it this way, and the reason behind it. Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the reasons I am where I am today. Like, that job, they pushed me to get my license. They would, between them and my mom and my wife, they were all telling me, keep moving, keep going, you can do it. It worked out.
That's important, right? Everyone needs someone. No one's self-made.
Nobody is.
Yeah. So how do you keep up with the industry? Because I'm sure every year there's different programs, different styles.
Yeah. Well, one great thing about once you become licensed in architecture, you have to, there's continuing education requirements to keep your license. So you have to go to webinars and seminars to a certain number of credits every 3 years to keep your license, and those things tell you what's cutting edge, like what's the next greatest thing. What's the big problem of last year's design? What's in the future? What are the drones doing? Stuff like that.
So what's a typical day in the life of Neil Myers? How do you?
So I go in the office. A lot of times I ride my bike in, which is very nice.
Oh,
and then go in there and first hour of the day, schedule what everybody's going to do on my team, answer emails, find out what the big problem of the day is that I need to solve it, try to solve it before noon actually, and then create a new problem afternoon and solve it by the end of the day.
Yeah.
A lot of times, my days I try to plan them, but I say that I do play whack-a-mole all day. It's always something new happening. You gotta run around and deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No 2 days alike, I'd say. That's another good thing.
That's a good thing, right? Because working here, I realized any job before this, I used to look at the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jesus Christ, it's only 1 o'clock. I get out at 5. I don't even realize that it's 5 o'clock. Sometimes I'll be here till 8 or 9, just working problem after problem, and I don't mind because I enjoy the day. It's a lot of stimulation. So. There's a entrepreneur in New York City that puts, anytime he has to write down his occupation, puts firefighter. It's like, because all day long I'm just putting out fire. Just like every day, just wake up and it's like a treadmill. You gotta run faster and faster to put out all the problems and the moving pieces.
It's true.
So, have you used social media a lot in your?
Professionally, no.
Not yet.
I use it. I use it for architectural reasons, but not for my day job. I use it I have a website that is linked to a Tumblr account, so I can share photos of things that I like through Instagram.
Oh.
And it pops up on my website through my phone. So I do it for fun though. I mean, I don't know. I don't look at it as doing social media, but I got people following me in Europe and Asia and Australia that just like a random photo I took of something in New York City. So I think it's cool. I don't know where it's going to take us. Let's see.
Positive or negative?
I think positive. I think it's a connectivity thing, if anything. Like LinkedIn, I guess. I guess I do use social media sometimes. 'Cause LinkedIn, clients will message me on LinkedIn, which is kind of weird, but it happens.
Yeah.
And
that you're already in communication with, or people that want your services?
both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah. If you already know them, it's normal. But if somebody kind of cold calls you there, you're like, huh?
Well, I would think if I already know you, why don't you just text me or call me?
You have a good point. Well, actually, the client that already knew me, he was doing both. He was LinkedIning me and texting me and emailing me because he really, really wanted my attention. Yeah, he got my attention. It was good.
I guess it's, yeah, LinkedIn, I think people will look for jobs on it. From what I heard, like they put their resume on there.
Yeah, I think that's how I probably got my job, my current job. A recruiter probably found me through LinkedIn.
Yeah, I
think so. That's probably how it happened.
Because there's a lot of I spoke with LinkedIn one time, and they sell recruiting packages. A lot of their revenue comes from recruiting companies. They pay them to be allowed to message. You're allowed to message a certain amount of people that you're not directly connected to a month. So you got like 20 messages a month of people you're not directly connected to. So it's fascinating. So what's next in your career? What are you currently working on that's exciting that?
A lot of new buildings right now. Actually, the new firm I'm with, we're doing a lot of ground up construction. So that's what's keeping me busy now. Probably 1,000 apartments across a few projects. So I want to see those get built is my next thing, and then onward, upward.
Do you get to a point where you say, I can't take on anything more right now?
You always hire more people.
That's a good psychology.
I never say no to a project because it's just a bad idea. Because what if you have 0 projects? It's better to have 40 projects than none.
Yeah.
You can always find, I will say no, I can't do something by a certain day, but I wouldn't turn away a client usually. I mean, there's jobs you don't want to do, obviously, but
yeah. But never
if it's a job that I want to do, no, not yet. I haven't came across one yet that was too big.
I always, even here, sometimes there's things that have to be metal that has to be bent a certain way, and the employees think it's impossible. And I said in the last podcast too, if the United States of America could put a man on the moon, then we can build this piece of furniture, right? Because it clears all the mental limitations that people, and it always works out. Even if you have to make a few adjustments, borrow someone else's machine, it always works out. All right, so so where can people find out more about you that are watching this podcast?
They could follow, my Instagram account is one place you can see what I'm doing.
And we'll link that on the video.
Cool. They could see my office's website, jfrankl.com. We're getting updated soon. It's outdated at the moment, but it will be updated over the next couple of months, so you can see some of the projects that I'm working on there.
Okay. Do you have a personal website?
I do, yeah. Actually, it's mohawkarch.com.
Mohawkarch. Okay, so we'll link all that for people to.
Yeah, and that's my photo site where you see pretty much mostly things about New York City, but I do go to other cities sometimes, and they get little cameos.
That's awesome. All right, well, thank you so much, Neil. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Tune in next week for the 3rd episode of Architecture, Business, and Design.